Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to the first video, the introductory video to this playlist. And the playlist is called Dr. Dave's Opening Repertoire. What on earth is that all about? Well, this is going to be based over probably 20-ish, maybe a bit more than that, videos, based on a book by Dr. Dave Regis of the Exeter Chess Club. As a free open source ebook. I'll show you the PDF in a sec, that the good doctor has been kind enough to send to me and give me permission to turn it into a series of short videos, because he has an interest like me in trying to help junior players or beginner players improve their chess. Why this is even more useful is because if I just play some moves on the board, now anyone that watches me play knows that I always start with d4. Pretty much always. Occasionally I'll play knight f3 and then I'll play d4 on the next move just for a change of scenery. But basically I play d4 and my opponents will do whatever they'll do. And I'll probably play the London system, knight there, pawn here, bishop here, knight here, get castled, put the knight on e5. It's the same things every time. It'll look a bit like this. Because it doesn't, oh no, not that, that's a dreadful blunder. Because it doesn't matter too much up to a point what black does. Yeah, there's some, there's the odd variation, it's chess for heaven's sake, but basically I play the same moves every time. So there's the London system based on d4 with a nice triangle of pawns. So it's a system opening. Other times, depending on how the game starts, I might play here and we'll get the Torre attack and have a little look at where everything goes. Actually, in this variation, you can play e4, but just for the sake of making the point, here we go again. The pieces are in the same place all the time. Nice triangle of pawns in the middle of the board. Get castle, put a knight on e5. Same plan, same piece placement. Oh, it's a system opening. Another one that you'll see me play from time to time. I might suddenly do this. What on earth are you doing here? Well, we'll play this kind of thing and this kind of thing and here. And black will develop and I'll castle. And I'll play here. And I'll put the bishop on b2 and play c4. And we've got the Collie system, and the key word is always system. And the point is that I like openings as white, where I basically don't have to remember too much theory. I can just put the pieces in the same place. And they're always based on d4, this pawn going forwards as the first early move. Another one that I like to play a lot, help if it was my move. I'll play e3 and then f4. And just playing random moves again for black. And you get what's called the Stonewall System. Here it is again, system opening, nice set of pawns there, get castle, put the knight on e5, queen across, attack on this side. Same plan, same setup every time. Lovely, nothing wrong with any of that at all. The downside of a system opening is that although it's a very safe and secure way to get to the middle game, if I know it, there's a pretty good chance that my opponent knows it. And if it's safe and sound for me to get to the middle game, it'll be safe and sound for our opponent to get to the middle game too. So there's nothing wrong with it if you're happy to play that style of chess. It's quite calm, quite cautious, get safely to the middle game. What we're going to learn from Dr. Dave is a different style of play. And everything is going to be based on starting with e4. So this is totally different. You will pretty much never see me start with e4 unless I'm just playing a much weaker player than me, or I'm just playing bullet games or whatever just for fun. I just don't play it. And Dr. Dave is going to show us a repertoire based on these openings for white. So here, and then bishop to here and d4. So straight away, crashing open the middle of the board to get the bishops out, to get the queen out. Really quite open chess, very, very, very early in the game. And he's going to do this with a series of miniatures. And a miniature in chess is a very short game. So there's going to be some very bloodthirsty chess, lots of early tactics, lots of tricks based on the weak square here, and as I call it, the diagonal of death to this square here. Now, of course, the downside of playing risky chess is that if you get it wrong, black will squish you in return. So none of this getting safely to the middle game thing when we're playing openings like the Scotch game, which the Scotch Gambit and things like that. So we go here and here and here, and we'll sacrifice a pawn to get all these open lines against the enemy king. So it's really all-out attack straight away, very different to d4. So totally different style of game. And the doctor's going to give us some openings to play against other things. So we'll have a look at the Caro-Kann defense, where it's going to be recommended that we play this, known as the Panov-Botvanic attack. And I'm just going to put this on the board. The good doctor is going to show us the isolated queen's pawn opening. Come back to that in a minute when I tell you what he's going to recommend for black. What's good about this? Well, it controls the center, gives you these nice outposts. And if you can push the pawn forward, white will be winning. But the risky part of this is it's got no pawn next to it. It's called an isolated pawn. So if all of the other pieces come off and you just play king against king with these pawns here, it becomes a weakness. So you've got a strength and a weakness already really early in the game. Playing against the Sicilian defense, if you're going to get good at chess, you're going to have to learn the Sicilian. Now, instead of playing knight f3 and d6, and I'll take you really quickly through the main line, all of this sort of stuff, and you get to here, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, excuse me, oops, I didn't mean to do that or that, 4, 5, 6, all these different possible moves for black. And then even if you've learned what to do with that one, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on and so on. You get the idea. All these things you've got to remember, and it's difficult. So Dr. Dave's going to give us something else. He's going to give us what's called the Allopin Sicilian, another way of playing based again on this early d4 idea. So lots and lots of different ways to play. He's going to give us something to do against the French defense, which is basically this setup. And it's worth remembering this because you might find in the French defense that you can get an isolated queen's pawn position. So just for the sake of it, we'll do, no, that's not going to give me the example I want. Let's play here and here. And I'll just play some moves just to point out that you can get this. Here we go. We've got the isolated queen's pawn again, but here this time it's black that's got one. Okay, we've got that. He's going to show us a couple of miniature games against some other random things like the Allopin's defense here against, oops, excuse me, the Perk defense, which is this setup for black. So lots and lots of different ways to play, but all based on e4. Very, very different. And when we come to play as black against e4, the good doctor is going to show us the French defense. Now, this is really, really cool because quite honestly, I don't play the French defense. So this is going to be really new. You're not going to learn this from me because I just don't play it. Maybe I will after I've played through all of these games with Dr. Dave. And for pretty much anything else that white might play, now the doctor is going to show us some setup openings. So one that we're going to get to see is the Tarrasch setup. Again, you can get something similar in the French defense. And if I just put some moves on the board, not necessarily the best ones, but I just want to make a point. I'm well aware that in this position, there might be like tactics to win the pawn. I know it's not the best moves, but the point is we're going to learn to play once again with this isolated queen's pawn. So same sort of pattern each time. Another one that we're going to be shown is one that I like to use, the Tartakower system. So it'll be something like this sort of setup for black. I expect we're going to see this and castles, and you can play this against pretty much anything that isn't an e4 opening. So it's kind of cool. That's one you'll see me play. And the doctor is even going to give us, just if we're feeling really greedy, another option against d4. And we're going to get to see the Dutch defense, the Stonewall variation. So I'm just going to put on some typical white moves here. And the Dutch Stonewall will look a little bit like this. We'll just develop pieces naturally, and something like this. So we'll get castled. We might bring the queen across to the attack. We might put a knight here. We'll put a pawn here. So loads and loads and loads of different openings. Let's have a quick look at the front page of the PDF. So here it is. So here's the book that Dr. Regis sent to me very kindly. So it's a public domain ebook, so completely available. And here's all the contents. There's a lot of it. So it's going to be, I think, lots of short-ish parts rather than going on for hours and hours each time. I think there might be a tiny typo there. I think that should probably say Scotch game, but I mean, you know, we're not going to quibble when we've been given such a wonderful resource. I think if I'd written 80 odd, 90 odd pages, I'd make a typo as well. It's fantastic. But what a resource we're going to be given. So that's the plan. It's going to be a completely different way of playing the openings than you'll see from me, because it's all going to be based, as I said, if I just go back to the board, it's all going to be based on white playing e4. Excuse me, let's flip the board. So playing as white with e4 instead of d4 as the first move. And I promise you, the change in the move order will completely change the style of the chess that you get in your games. D4 will tend to be quite slow, quite steady. You'll get the dangerous stuff and the tactics in the middle game if it's going to happen. But E4, it can really get wild quite early. So should be really, really interesting. Very, very grateful to Dr. Regis for letting us have this resource. And hopefully, as I put on more and more videos over the next few weeks, you'll really enjoy learning some new openings. So that's where we are for now. Thanks for watching. And yeah, see you in part 2, where we'll start looking at some miniatures from the Scotch game. Thanks for watching.